here were the projections from last year for Kentucky. You can see they were 7-5. The projection was at 8-4. I picked them to go 8-4. The FPI had them at 8.2 and 3.9, so basically 8-4. And the over/under was at 8.5. So they really were below expectations last season. 8-4 was the expectation, and according to Vegas, they were more likely to go 9-3 than they were 7-5. So a disappointing season for Kentucky last year. Looking ahead to this year, what will the projection be? We'll find out here in just a second. I look at this team with Devin Leary coming over at quarterback. They've got their guys back at receiver. This could be an interesting team. I've started my very early evaluations of these teams and really breaking down who's coming back, who's coming in through the transfer portal, all of that. This could be a sneaky team next year after having a disappointing year in 2022. Again, they were 7-6. This is the schedule. This is the scale that we use. If it stays in the white 50-50 game, that's a game where I think the spread will be less than a touchdown. Less than 20 over 80, those are games where I think the spread will be 20 or more. In the in the orange and the blue, those are games where I think the spread will be double digits, 10-19 in that range, 30-39, 61-70. Those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points in that range. So we'll start with the easy wins for Kentucky. And they've got a really favorable schedule at the start with Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron. So all three of their first games should be easy wins. It would be a shock if Kentucky is not 3-0 coming out of those first three games. So easy wins there to start. It does get tougher, obviously, when you get into the grind of the SEC. So they'll play 8 straight SEC games before playing Louisville at the end. And again, you like the SEC schedule and the fact that you don't have any back-to-back road games, but they do have Alabama out of the West, so that makes it pretty tough. We'll go to those next games, and these are games where, again, I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown. Vanderbilt on the road. Look, I know Vandy won last year, but Kentucky still, they were overall the better team last year. But I'm not going to put this one in the blue because Vandy did show some signs at the end of last season. They did win a couple of big games, and because of that, I think Kentucky's only going to be favored by about a touchdown. Missouri is one because of home field advantage. We're going to swing this one to Kentucky by about a touchdown. If it was at Missouri, I'd probably have that game in the 50-50 category. You've got Louisville there at the end of the season on the road, rivalry game. I know Kentucky's pretty much dominated this series as of late, and we don't know a ton about Louisville with a new head coach, new quarterback, but I think Kentucky will be favored by 7 or 8. I feel pretty confident in that. And then that leaves you with, so 6 of their games, they'll be favored. They'll be a clear favorite in 6 of their 12 games. Not necessarily a huge favorite, but a clear favorite in 6 of their 12 games. Now we have to look at the games where they'll be underdogs. I think Georgia and Alabama, those are both games where they will be double-digit underdogs. Probably 17, 18 points against Georgia, a couple of touchdowns against Alabama. That game is at home, so maybe it's not a huge number. But they're going to be double-digit underdogs in both of these games. And as far as the projection goes, these games will be counted as losses. And that leaves Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, South Carolina. I think Tennessee and South Carolina, those are in the yellow. So those are games where I think Kentucky will be underdogs by about a touchdown. Tennessee is at home. That's why I'm putting this one in the yellow. If it was on the road, it might be in the orange. But play it at home. Kentucky probably only an 8 or 9 point underdog. South Carolina on the road, probably about a touchdown underdog in that game. It seems like those games are close more times than not, and so I don't expect a big number there. South Carolina, they're probably going to be a preseason top 25 team. Kentucky probably is not, but I think they'll be very close. I think they'll be one of those teams that's just outside of the top 25, at least in the preseason. Of course, once we get into the season, these numbers, obviously, they're going to change, but this is just a very early projection, not a prediction. I don't do predictions until after spring, but a very early projection here based on the schedule. And Florida and Mississippi State, those are both your 50-50 games. I think those are games that could go either way. Don't see a big spread in either one of those, probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 points. So that's how we break it down here for Kentucky. What does that come out to? Again, we count Georgia and Alabama as losses, I should say. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron as wins. And then we average everything else out, 65% for the purple, 35% for the yellow, 50% for the games in the white. And we get a projection of 7-5. So the same record as last year. I think this Kentucky team, like I said, could be sneaky good. They could do better than this projection, but it's going to be tough when you've got Georgia and Alabama. If you're already counting those games as losses, and if you say, they're probably going to lose Tennessee, South Carolina, at least one of those, you're already at 3 losses. And then you've got Florida and Mississippi State, games that could go either way. Vandy, Missouri, Louisville, yes, they'll be favored, but not huge favorites in those games. So you can see how 5 losses can happen, just like it did last year. But again, that is the projection for Kentucky in 2023 to go 7-5 once again.